Android sa Baum or the Playstore, Baum is absolutely obsessed with making roguelikes. These days you can find every style and type imaginable, from card-based roguelikes all the way to FPS roguelikes, and the best part, almost all of them are really good linemakers. So today we're going to talk about a bunch of them. You already know the drill, and hit that like button and come with me. I have absolutely no idea how this game's anime works, but after playing it, I can say one thing for sure. It's insanely addictive in every possible way. Let's start with a card-based RPG roguelike called YOHANE the PARHELIon. YOHANE Yoshiko Tsushima, who works as a fortune teller in Numazu, finds a mysterious mirror. When she uses it, she gets pulled into a reversed world. Trapped inside this mirror, she now needs to defeat once peaceful creatures and even save her own friends from their evil versions. The combat is entirely card-based. You build your own deck with over 100 different cards, including cards that let you summon your friends to fight alongside you. And of course, every run is completely different, and you have to reach the end with the same health you started with. So yeah, it might not look like it at first, but this game brings a surprisingly strong roguelike system and an absurd amount of replayability. This is easily one of the best on this entire list if you enjoy fast-paced gameplay and sharp, responsive controls. Let's talk about Wizard of Legend. You play as a wizard taking part in the Chaos Trials to prove your worth and become the Wizard of Legend. That's basically the story, and it's not deep, but it does the job anymore. The game rewards precise movement and quick spell usage. Dodging is essential, letting you avoid damage and reposition yourself to pull off combos. Your magical arsenal includes over 100 unique spells called arcanas. They're divided into elements like fire, water, earth, electricity, air, and chaos, basically turning you into Aang from Avatar. The maps are randomly generated, of course, and you start with only basic skills, powering up as you progress. And yes, the game also supports co-op, which makes it even better. The only real downside to this game, at least in my honest opinion, is that it's played in vertical mode. Yep, the classic phone standing up. Let's talk about Valhalla Survival, my... This one is basically an action survival RPG with roguelike elements. It's fast-paced, full of hack and slash action, but unlike Wizard of Legend, this game focuses on much simpler combat. It takes place in a world inspired by Norse mythology, where you travel across Midgard while the threat of Ragnarok looms over everything. But it's also one of those roguelikes that start you off by choosing a class, and the progression during each run is insanely satisfying. You begin by shooting simple arrows and end up unleashing all kinds of powers in every direction. I recommend it for fans of roguelikes or survival horde games like Vampire Survivors who want a fast hack and slash style experience. One of the only games on this list that works almost entirely in co-op. Let's talk about a new roguelike called TOREROWA. You dive into dungeons known as remnants with a group of up to 3 players. You can invite friends or just team up with random people online. The goal is to fight powerful monsters, avoid traps, open treasure chests, collect valuable loot, and level up inside the dungeon to grow stronger. But here's the catch. To actually keep your treasure, you have to escape through portals that appear inside the dungeon. If you get taken down before leaving, you lose everything you collected that run. So it's a roguelike mainly in terms of combat gameplay, while its progression and other systems lean heavily into pure RPG territory. It also includes a PvP multiplayer mode with up to 5 squads in a single run fighting to see who comes out on top. Now, without a doubt, this is one of the best games released this year, a roguelike that also leans heavily into RPG territory. Let's talk about Stellar SORA. The main challenge takes place in mysterious towers called monoliths. As you climb each floor, you receive random perks that affect your squad's power and abilities, making every run completely unique. You build a squad of 3 characters known as trekkers, assigning main and support roles. The way their skills combine is absolutely crucial to your success. YoStar, the studio behind the game, has a talent for creating addictive titles, and this one is no exception. It's easily one of the best roguelikes of the year, but it's worth mentioning that there's criticism around the gacha economy, with players saying that earning currency can feel slow for free-to-play players. A completely different kind of 2D roguelike, man, one that honestly could have been released as a standalone story-driven game. Let's talk about Skull the Hero Slayer. The story is one of the game's biggest strengths. Humanity, led by the hero of PARHELION and the Imperial Army, invades the Demon King's castle and captures every demon inside. You play as Skull, a small lone skeleton who happens to be the only one left. Your mission is to rescue the Demon King from captivity. The game features over 100 characters now, although that's not exactly the right word. The mechanic of swapping Skull's head completely changes his abilities, essentially turning him into a brand new fighter. There are tons of options, letting you adapt your playstyle however you like. And even though it often feels like a full story mode game where the narrative could easily be the main focus, it's still a simple, clean roguelike at its core, and that's exactly what makes it special. I really love this game, especially its art style, and though it's incredibly beautiful, and on top of that, the gameplay is solid too. Let's talk about OTHEWORLD Legend. This game is fully online, and it's the kind of title that's constantly getting updates with new characters and items. The last time I played, it had around 25 playable characters, but by now there are probably way more. The game follows an engaging narrative where the greatest warriors and fighters from different eras and dimensions are summoned into a mirage created by an entity called ACHROMA, all fighting to prevent the end of the world. In short, OTHEWORLD Legends is highly recommended for anyone looking for a fast, action-packed mobile RPG with roguelike elements, something easy to pick up but deep enough to offer tons of build variety and extremely satisfying combat. Just like YOHANE the PARHELION, which I talked about earlier, and whose anime I had never heard of, this is another one where I don't know the characters at all, but the game is genuinely great. Let's talk about Mob Rush. You pick one of your favorite Mobile Legends heroes to play. Even though the gameplay is different, the characters, visuals, and even some items and lore elements from Mobile Legends are used here. In other words, it's a roguelike featuring your favorite MOBA characters from one of the most popular Android games out there. The main goal is to survive as long as possible against increasingly dense and powerful waves of enemies, upgrading your character throughout each run. One interesting thing about this game is how extravagant it gets. Your hero starts by shooting a simple arrow and ends up unleashing absolutely wild abilities in every direction. Some runs shower you with items and upgrades non-stop, letting your character evolve at an absurd pace. MARGONEN Adventures is a spin-off of a well-known Polish browser MMORPG called MARGONEN, but redesigned into a fully roguelike focused experience. And yes, I know it. And it's definitely one of the more unique entries in the genre. This roguelike works differently from the others on our list. Combat against monsters happens in real time, but your abilities are activated using cards that you draw and play. You build your deck with the best skills before each adventure, and your success depends on how well you use those cards tactically during each fight. So at the same time, it's a real-time action game and a card game where you're constantly relying on the luck of the draw to get your strongest abilities. One of the main missions involves rescuing friendly creatures known as Ponche, who were captured by an evil entity and imprisoned deep within the dungeons. In short, MARGONEN Adventures manages to be extremely different and almost genius in its design. Without a doubt, this is the weirdest and honestly the ugliest roguelike on our entire list, but it makes up for it with a really unique system. Let's talk about Halls of Torment. Unlike most games, your hero usually attacks automatically, so your main job is to move, dodge, and position yourself to maximize damage while collecting the experience dropped by defeated enemies. Another thing that sets Halls of Torment apart is that, as far as I've seen, there doesn't seem to be an actual end to the runs. They feel endless, and the real challenge becomes testing how long you can survive. The game features multiple classes, quite a few actually, and character progression is relatively slow. For example, each level up usually gives you choices like gaining just +10 to a specific attribute, nothing too flashy but still essential for staying alive. Halls of Torment is without question the most grounded and bare bones roguelike on this entire list. For anyone who thought I was exaggerating earlier, here it is, one of the only FPS roguelikes out there, GUNFIRE Reborn. You control a hero with unique abilities from a first-person perspective, moving through rooms packed with enemies just like in any other roguelike, except of course the big twist is that this one is an FPS. The key to the game is using the items and scrolls you find during each run to create powerful build synergies that completely change your hero. For example, one build might focus on electric and critical damage, while another might go all in on explosive damage and shield regeneration. And one of the biggest differences in GUNFIRE Reborn is its weapon variety. Unlike many roguelikes, this game gives you a huge arsenal, and the combinations you can create are genuinely powerful. Another thing worth mentioning is that the game also supports co-op mode, even though it's fully offline. Let's talk about two connected games that launched on Android this year, and a lot of people were waiting for them: Enter the Gungeon and Exit the Gungeon. The first one, Enter the Gungeon, follows 4 adventurers known as the Gungeoneers, who descend into the Gungeon, a legendary dungeon that looks like a massive armory, all in search of a gun capable of killing the past. The gameplay itself is fairly simple and doesn't try to reinvent too much, but it shines through its massive variety. Over 300 weapons and more than 200 items to collect. The real fun is discovering those ridiculous over-the-top synergies between guns and perks. The second game, Exit the Gungeon, is literally the continuation of the story Awe Kabai Slai Bakobi. So now you're trying to escape the Gungeon you entered in the first game, but this time the action is vertical, focusing on platforming and using the aerial dodge roll to avoid enemy attacks. The biggest difference is that your weapon changes randomly at short intervals or after a set number of kills, making every moment unpredictable. This roguelike is relatively simple. It doesn't have any huge gimmicks or major new mechanics, but it nails the idea of doing simple really well. Let's talk about Elemental World. The game features just one character, but the replayability is incredible thanks to its elemental-based gameplay. You can combine up to 3 elements at the same time to create powerful spells. For example, fire and fire can create a massive fire explosion. Fire and earth can summon a meteor shower. Water and electricity can produce an electrified water vortex. The idea of changing the environment through elemental effects is also well executed. Even something as basic as using only the earth element can reshape the battlefield. As I said earlier, it doesn't have a huge standout feature, but it doesn't need one. In short, Elemental World is a fast-paced roguelike with a very creative magic system that forces you to think quickly and use smart elemental combinations to survive. One of the most insane 2D roguelikes released this year, and the game I absolutely loved. Let's talk about BLAZBLUE Entropy Effect. What really sets BLAZBLUE Entropy Effect apart is the depth of its combat, inherited directly from the fighting games the series is known for. You can choose from over 15 playable characters, each with a completely unique fighting style and dozens of move variations. During each run, you earn temporary abilities called traits, which modify your movement and your attacks. On top of that, you can apply elemental effects, fire, electricity, ice, and more to customize your combo style even further. And despite being completely free on Android, the game also features an excellent co-op mode, making the experience even better. Let's wrap up our list with a game that manages to be simple and complex at the same time, with a brilliant gameplay concept, ACHROMA. Without a doubt, it's the most underrated game on this entire list. Surprisingly, it's an action RPG with roguelike elements. Your character attacks and dodges using gesture-based controls similar to what we saw in Fruit Ninja. The challenge is to make it through all 10 levels with every one of your characters still alive. The game uses a gacha system and looks very much like a traditional RPG when you first open it, but underneath that it leans heavily into roguelike mechanics, and as we've seen, those two elements can blend incredibly well. In short, ACHROMA is a great choice for anyone who wants something RPG focused but still enjoys the depth and complexity of roguelike systems. And that's it for today. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to drop a like and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.